The sky of Arthenia was silver and blue. Two suns stood high above the shining towers. The royal city of Asterion was built with crystal stones that reflected the light in every direction. The palace stood in the center, taller than anything else. The people of Arthenia believed their world was the heart of the galaxy. A single human ship entered their space. It was not as large as the Arthenian royal cruisers, but it moved with smooth power. Inside that ship stood Ryan, a young human diplomat. His uniform was clean but simple. He looked through the front window and saw the planet below. His heart was calm. He was not a prince or a warrior. He was only a man who carried the voice of his people. Ryan had trained for this mission for many years. The Arthenian Empire was old and proud. They were one of the oldest space powers. For centuries they saw humans as a young and loud race. Some respected humans, but many looked down on them. Ryan understood this. He did not come to beg. He came to stand equal. The ship landed on a long silver platform near the royal palace. Guards in shining armor formed two lines. They held long silver spears that glowed with energy. Musicians played soft crystal tones as the palace gates opened. Arthenian nobles stood in beautiful robes. Their faces were proud and calm. In the center of the welcoming group stood the young Princess Lyra. She was 19 years old, tall, and graceful. A long blue robe covered her shoulders. Her hair was dark and her eyes sharp. She had been raised to believe her people were above all others. To her, humans were a new race that had not yet learned the ways of the stars. Ryan stepped down from the ship. His boots touched the platform. He walked forward with slow and steady steps. He felt the weight of many eyes on him. Some Arthenian nobles whispered to each other. They expected him to bow deeply before the princess. But Ryan only placed his hand on his chest as a sign of respect. He did not lower his head. The sound of whispers grew louder. Some nobles frowned. Princess Lyra watched him carefully. She had seen humans before, but never at the royal palace. In her heart she believed they were simple creatures who spoke loud and tried too hard to be seen. The royal speaker raised his staff. His voice echoed through the hall. "Welcome, representative of the human union. The princess greets you. This is a place of honor. Speak with care. Step with respect." Ryan bowed slightly. "I bring greetings from Earth and the human union. It is my honor to stand on the world of Arthenia." The nobles nodded slowly. His words were polite but strong. Princess Lyra walked forward. Her steps were soft, but her presence was powerful. She stood in front of him, only a few steps away. Her sharp eyes studied him from head to toe. "This is the human diplomat," she said with a cold voice. "Your uniform is plain. Your ship is small. Is this how humans show respect to the oldest empire in the stars?" Ryan did not answer right away. He stood straight. He felt no shame in his plain clothes or his small ship. Lyra tilted her head. Do humans not understand how to honor those above them? Her words spread through the hall like fire. Some nobles laughed softly. Others kept quiet, but their eyes shone with pride. Ryan took a slow breath. He could feel the weight of this moment. He remembered his training. He remembered why he came here. Humans had worked hard to rise among the stars. They built their cities with their own hands. They crossed the darkness without help. They were not a race that bent to empty pride. He looked at the princess with calm eyes. He spoke with a steady voice. "I came here to speak as an equal. I do not wear gold. I do not ride a warship. I stand here as a man of Earth. That is enough for me." The hall went silent. No one moved. No one had ever spoken to the princess in such a way. Lyra's eyes widened for a short moment. She had expected him to beg for her favor. She had expected him to lower his head. But he stood tall. She tried to smile, but it was thin. "An equal," she repeated. "You are brave to use that word here." She turned her face slightly to the nobles. Humans are young. They have no old empire. They have no crystal towers. They are loud children who think they are strong. Ryan said nothing. He kept his calm. Then, without asking permission, he took one step back. He turned away from the princess and began to walk toward his ship. The sound of his boots on the platform was clear and steady. No guard moved to stop him. The nobles stared in silence. No one had ever walked away from the royal ceremony before. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had expected anger or begging. She had not expected this silent refusal. She raised her voice. "Stop, you cannot turn your back on the royal house of Arthenia." Ryan kept walking. He did not turn around. He did not speak. His calm steps were louder than any words. The royal speaker hesitated. The guards did not know what to do. The nobles whispered louder. Some were angry. Others were surprised. A few looked thoughtful. Rian reached the ship's ramp. He turned once. His eyes met Lyra's. There was no hate in them. There was only quiet strength. Then he stepped inside the ship. The doors closed behind him. Lyra stood frozen in place. Her face felt hot. For the first time in her life, someone had refused to play by the royal rules. She clenched her hand slowly. She had offended him, and instead of fighting back, he had simply walked away. The royal speaker bowed before her. "Princess, shall we order his return?" She shook her head slowly. "No, let him go." The nobles began to argue among themselves. Some said humans were weak and proud. Others said the human had shown strength that no one expected. A young guard whispered to his friend that no one had ever looked at the princess like that. Lyra turned to look at the sky. The small human ship rose from the platform and flew into the clouds. She felt something new inside her. It was not anger alone. It was also curiosity. The royal court tried to return to order, but the air in the hall had changed. For the first time, someone had shown the Empire that respect is not something forced. It must be earned. Far above the palace, Rian sat in his seat on the ship. He looked at the stars. He thought of Earth and the long road humans had walked. He knew this mission was not over. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any speech. The ship moved forward through the shining sky of Arthenia. Behind him, the royal court whispered his name. Ahead of him, the stars waited. The silver clouds of Arthenia floated under the small human ship. The engines hummed in a steady rhythm as the vessel moved toward the outer edge of the city's sky. Inside the ship, Rian sat alone in the observation room. The stars were far away, but their light reached him like quiet voices. He rested his hands on the table and closed his eyes for a short moment. Rian had trained for many years to speak with alien leaders, but he had not expected the princess to speak with such open pride. He understood why she said those words. Arthenia was old. Its people had ruled star systems for centuries. They had been here long before humans built their first ships. In their eyes, humanity was a small voice among many powers. He opened his eyes and looked at the stars again. He was not angry. He felt steady like a tree in strong wind. His people had faced worse. His grandparents had told him stories of the early days when humans fought to survive on harsh worlds. Back then, no one believed humans would rise. Now they stood in the great councils of the galaxy. In the main control room, his second officer, Mira, entered. She was calm and strong with sharp eyes. She had been with him since his first mission. She placed a data tablet on the table. "You made the royal court silent," Mira said. "They have never seen someone walk away from their princess before." Rian gave a short nod. "I did not go there to kneel. I went to speak as an equal. If they cannot accept that, then this mission means nothing." Mira sat across from him. "They will talk about this for days. Some will laugh. Some will fear. But all of them will remember." Outside the ship's windows, the palace towers slowly faded in the distance. But inside the royal court, the echo of his actions grew louder. Inside the royal hall, Princess Lyra stood alone near the crystal balcony. The city below shone like a sea of light. The wind moved through the high arches. Her long robe waved softly. She could still see the trail of the human ship rising toward the stars. Her advisor, an older man named Renal, stepped closer. He had served the royal family for 40 years. His voice was calm. "Princess, your words today carried weight," but his silence carried more. Lyra turned to face him. "He walked away from me. No one has ever done that. Not even the leaders of other empires." Renal folded his hands behind his back. "That is because they needed something from us. Humans are different. They are not as large as our empire, but they have something our nobles have forgotten. They have earned their place through struggle. They remember what it means to build from nothing." Lyra looked at the stars. "Are you saying he is stronger than us?" Renal shook his head. "Strength has many forms. The strength to bow and the strength to stand are both real. But today he showed a strength this court has not seen in a long time." He did not speak with loud pride. He spoke with quiet certainty. Lyra clenched her hands at her sides. She had been raised to believe humans were soft. They had technology but no ancient glory. She had insulted him thinking he would break. But he had simply walked away. Renal continued speaking. "The nobles are divided now. Some say we should show our power. Others say we should be careful. His silence struck their pride like a stone against glass. It left a mark that will not fade. Lyra remembered his eyes before he turned away. They were not filled with anger or fear. They were calm. That calmness made her feel small for the first time in her life. Later that night, the royal council gathered in a great round chamber of crystal and silver. Nobles filled the seats. Their voices rose and fell like waves. One noble shouted, "He insulted the royal house by turning his back. No human should leave this world without kneeling first." Another noble answered, "No, he did not insult us. He showed that he is not afraid. That is what makes this dangerous. If they are not afraid of us, then they will not be controlled." Lyra sat on the high seat listening to them. Their arguments filled the air. Some wanted to summon the human back by force. Some wanted to ignore the event. A few, the oldest and wisest, said it was time to see humans in a new way. Rennell stepped forward. His voice was clear. "We have ruled for many years, but the galaxy is not frozen in time. We must understand that respect cannot be forced forever. Today, the humans showed the entire court that they are not servants. If we treat them as less, we may face a stronger storm later." A young noble rose to his feet. "Are we to bow before them then?" Rennell shook his head. "No, but we must learn to see them clearly. If we keep living in the shadow of our old glory, one day that shadow will turn into darkness. The galaxy moves forward. So must we." The room fell into uneasy silence. Princess Lyra looked at Rennell and then at the nobles. She had never seen the council so shaken by a single action. It was only a man walking away, yet it carried more power than any speech. Far above the planet, Ryan's ship floated near the upper orbit. The crew gathered in the small common room. The mood was mixed. Some were tense. Others smiled with quiet pride. One of the younger crew members said, "You really just turned your back on a princess. Do you know how many people would not dare to do that?" Ryan stood near the viewing window. The stars reflected in his eyes. "This mission was never about pride. If we bend now, we will keep bending forever. Humans have walked too far to return to chains." The crew fell silent. His words carried weight. They all knew the history of their people. Long ago, humans were not welcome in the galaxy. Many called them reckless explorers. Some powers tried to control them. But humans built their fleets and cities one world at a time. They survived, they rose. They became a voice that could not be ignored. Rian walked back to the table and opened a communication panel. A small screen lit up with the symbol of the Human Union. He sent a short message to the council. It said the meeting had failed to begin because of disrespect from the Arthenian royal house. He did not hide what happened. He sent it exactly as it was. The message would reach every human station in this sector. It would also be recorded in the official diplomatic files. The Arthenian court would not be able to twist the story. In the palace, Lyra walked through the empty corridors. The night winds moved through the arches and made soft sounds. She stopped near the royal archive. The door opened with a low chime. Inside, thousands of data crystals lined the walls. These crystals held the history of Arthenia. She walked between the tall shelves and stopped near a small display that showed images of the first contact with humans many years ago. She saw the faces of early human explorers. Their ships were small and weak, but their eyes were bright with hope. She remembered her lessons. The teachers had said humans were stubborn. They had said humans never give up. At that time, she had laughed, thinking stubbornness was a sign of weakness. Now she was not so sure. Rennell entered the archive quietly. He stood beside her without speaking for a moment. Then he said, "Do you know what the first Arthenian captain said when they met humans?" Lyra shook her head. He said, "These creatures have no wings, but they will reach the stars because their hearts are too loud to be held down." Lyra looked at the glowing crystal image of the early explorers. Their faces were young, but their eyes were strong. Rennell spoke again. "He was not just walking away from you. He was carrying the weight of his people's journey. And he placed that weight on our royal court without a single threat. That is why everyone is shaken." Lyra lowered her head slightly. "I thought they were weak." Rennell gave a small smile. "You are young. You were raised on stories of glory. But stories can become walls if you do not question them. The human showed you the truth behind the wall." The next morning, the news spread across the empire. On every screen and in every council hall, the image of the human walking away from the princess was shown. The nobles tried to control the story, but the people had already started to talk. Some mocked him. Some admired him. Some simply wondered what would happen next. Lyra stood on the palace balcony again. The silver sky stretched far and wide. She felt something in her chest that she had never felt before. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was a heavy thought that would not leave her mind. She whispered to herself. Why did it feel so powerful when he walked away? Below the balcony, the palace guards trained in silence. The city moved as always. But something in the air had changed. Above the world, Ryan's ship waited. He had not left the system yet. He wanted to give the Arthenian court time to decide what kind of empire they wished to be. He did not send threats. He did not ask for favors. He simply waited. The silence of his ship became heavier than any weapon. It was a message the whole empire could feel. The morning light of Arthenia spread across the shining towers. The royal city moved with its usual rhythm. Markets opened. Air transports moved between crystal buildings. Flags of the empire waved in the soft wind. But inside the palace walls, things were not the same. The royal court gathered again in the great hall. Every noble who had seen the human walk away was still thinking about it. His silence had become a question that none of them could escape. The princess sat on her tall seat wearing her silver robe. Her young face was calm on the outside, but her thoughts were full of noise. Renal stood near her. The old advisor had watched empires rise and fall. He could feel a change in the air. The nobles started their debate early. Some wanted to show strength. Others warned against rash actions. One noble raised his hand. We are the oldest empire in this part of the galaxy. We cannot allow a single human to turn his back on us. If we do nothing, others will think we are weak. Another noble shook his head. And if we try to force him, we might make him a hero. Humans have power now. We cannot act like they are still a small voice. A young commander spoke next. Their fleets are not as large as ours, but their spirit is hard. I have seen their colonies. They build cities on dead worlds and turn them into living places. They fight storms and do not give up. They are not like us. The room fell into silence. Even those who looked down on humans had to admit that the commander spoke the truth. Everyone in the galaxy knew humans grew fast. They moved to empty planets and built their future with their own hands. They did not wait for others to accept them. They forced the stars to listen. Princess Lyra looked down at her hands. She remembered his calm face. She remembered how he turned his back without fear. It made her heart tighten again. She had grown up believing humans were loud and foolish. But that single action had shown her something else. Renal stepped forward. We must stop living in the past. We are proud of our history, but history does not command the future. Humans are growing. They do not follow our ways, but they are building their own path. We must choose how we face them. Do we hold our pride above reason, or do we accept reality and find a way to walk beside them? Some nobles nodded, others crossed their arms. It was not an easy question. Far above the planet, Ryan stood on the observation deck of his ship. The stars spread out like a river of light. His crew moved quietly around him. They all knew the weight of what had happened. They had not fired a single shot, but the royal court of an old empire was shaken. Mira walked in with a report in her hand. The news has spread to other systems. Every station is talking about what happened at the palace. Some say the princess lost face. Others say you showed the strength of our people without force. Ryan read the report with steady eyes. He was not proud. He was simply clear about what had happened. This was not about showing power. It was about showing that we do not bend for the sake of their pride. Mira smiled softly. Sometimes silence is sharper than any blade. The whole empire is now looking at their princess. They are asking if she truly understands the world outside her palace. He nodded. The question is not about me. It is about them. What they do next will show who they are. Outside the ship, the blue glow of the planet moved slowly. Ryan did not rush to leave. He wanted the empire to feel the weight of their own actions. In the palace, Princess Lyra walked through the gardens behind the hall. Silver flowers moved in the wind. A small stream ran between the stones. She liked this place because it was quiet. She could think without the eyes of the nobles. Her steps were slow. She remembered the history lessons she had learned as a child. The teachers had told her the empire had guided young races for centuries. They said humans would one day follow the same path. She had believed it without question. Renal approached from behind. His old robe brushed softly against the stones. You are thinking about him, he said. She did not deny it. Yes, I have never seen someone look at me like that. It was as if my words did not matter to him. He did not fear me. He did not even hate me. He simply decided I was not worth his time. Renal folded his hands behind his back. He did not need to fight with you. His silence spoke louder than any argument. He showed the court that we no longer control every room we walk into. Lyra turned toward the flowers. I thought humans were simple. I thought they wanted our approval. I thought they were small compared to us. But now I see they do not care about what we think. Renal nodded. They respect strength, but their idea of strength is different from ours. We wear gold and stand on tall towers. They build their strength from struggle. They remember the cold of space. They remember how to fight for every step. That is why he walked away with no fear. His people have already walked through harder storms. She knelt near the water and placed her hand on the cool surface. Her reflection looked uncertain. Do you think I made a mistake? She asked. Renal spoke slowly. A mistake is only a chain if you refuse to learn from it. You still have time to show that the Empire can change, but you must decide if your crown is more important than the truth. At the same time, in the outer parts of the palace, the common people were also talking. In the markets and in the transports, the story of the human diplomat had spread like fire. Some said he was a fool. Others said he was brave. Many had never seen anyone walk away from a princess. An old merchant said to his friend, I have seen many races bow to the royal house. But the humans are different. They act like they do not need us. Maybe they really do not. His friend nodded. It makes me wonder if our empire is not as strong as we think. Maybe we are living too much in our old stories. The voices of the people grew louder. The nobles heard them. Lyra heard them too. For the first time, the royal family felt the weight of public doubt. In the evening, the royal court held a private gathering. Only the Princess Renal and a few key advisors were present. They sat around a round table of black crystal. One advisor spoke first. Princess, the human still remains in orbit. He has not left the system. It feels like he is waiting. Lyra raised her head. Yes, he is waiting for us to decide if we wish to stand with him or against him. And he is doing it without saying a single word. Another advisor leaned forward. This is clever. If we act with pride, the galaxy will see us as fools. If we act with anger, we risk a conflict that will not end well. If we act with wisdom, the galaxy will remember that the Empire still has grace. Renal looked at the princess. The choice is yours. If you wish to lead, then your voice must rise above old pride. Lyra took a long breath. She had never felt such pressure before. All her life she had been the one others bowed to. Now the weight of one calm man had made the whole empire question itself. High above the world, Rian sat in the ship's command chair. The crew moved quietly around him. The stars were clear outside the glass. Mira placed a report on his console. The Arthenian Council is divided. Some want to invite you back. Some want to ignore us. A few want to act with force. But the princess has not made her choice. Ryan's face remained calm. It is not our task to push them. We have already shown who we are. Now they must decide who they will be. Mira nodded. Your silence is making them think harder than any speech would. He looked at the glowing planet below. Sometimes the strongest power is not in weapons or armies. It is in not needing to prove anything. Back in the royal palace, Lyra walked alone through the long hallway leading to her chamber. The crystal walls reflected the soft blue light of the night. She thought of her father, the emperor, who had always told her that their empire would rule forever. She thought of her mother, who had told her to speak with strength and never lower her head. But now a question kept circling in her heart. If the empire was truly unshakable, why had one man's silence shaken it so much? She entered her chamber and sat near the wide window. The stars stretched above her like a vast sea. She placed her hand on the glass. Somewhere out there, that human ship waited. Renal's voice echoed in her memory. Strength has many forms. For the first time, she felt the weight of leadership. It was heavier than the golden crown on her head. It was not just about speaking. It was about understanding. The next day, the nobles gathered again. Their voices were softer this time. The endless arguing had not brought answers. They turned their eyes toward their young princess. She had to make a choice. She could hold her pride and watch the galaxy turn against them, or she could face the truth and choose a new path. Lyra rose from her seat. Her robe flowed behind her as she walked to the center of the room. We can no longer act like the world belongs only to us, she said. The human did not shout. He did not threaten. But he has already made the galaxy watch us. Our choice will define what happens next. The nobles looked at one another. Some still held their pride. Others began to see a new path. Renal watched her speak and felt a quiet hope. She was changing. The sky of Arthenia was clear when the warning sirens broke the silence. A deep alarm echoed across the royal city. Towers lit up with red lights. Transport stopped in the air. Guards rushed to their posts. The sound spread from the capital to the outer defense lines. Inside the palace, Princess Lyra stood with Renal in the royal hall. She had been speaking with the council when the alarm began. The nobles froze in fear. Few had ever heard the high-level alarm. It was only used for real danger. An officer ran inside. His armor was dusty from the defense station. He knelt on one knee and spoke in a loud voice. Princess, unknown fleet detected at the edge of our orbit. Ships are moving fast toward the planet. Their signals do not match any allied group. Lyra's heartbeat grew faster. She stepped forward. Are they armed? The officer nodded. Yes, their formation is built for attack. The first wave is already moving past our patrol line. The nobles began to panic. Some shouted orders that made no sense. Others whispered about enemies. Renal raised his hand. Enough. We must act with a clear head. Princess, the Defense Council awaits your command. Lyra felt the weight of power on her shoulders. She took a deep breath. Send the Royal Guard ships to orbit. Raise the shield. Prepare the ground defense. Inform the outer colonies. No one is to act without command. The officer bowed and ran out of the hall. Renal leaned closer. This is no small attack. It is planned. Someone is testing the Empire at its heart. Lyra nodded. Then we will show them that Arthenia still stands. But her voice carried a small tremor. This was not a training exercise. This was war coming to her door. High above the planet, Ryan's ship received the same signal. The control screens flashed red. Mira rushed into the command room with a clear report. Ryan, enemy fleet detected. 17 ships in total. They are using old but dangerous technology. They are not sending any signal of peace. They are moving toward the Royal Defense Line. Ryan looked at the map. The Arthenian shield was strong, but it was built for large wars between empires. It had grown soft over the years. The nobles had believed no one would dare attack them. That belief had made their defenses slower and weaker than before. Ryan stood straight. Prepare the crew. Ready weapons and shields. We may need to defend more than ourselves today. Mira raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you still carry the weight of what happened at the palace? He answered calmly. This is not about them. This is about what is right. An enemy at their gates is an enemy that can burn everything around us. We will not stand by and watch. The crew moved quickly. Alarms inside the ship turned steady and bright. The engines hummed louder. The ship turned toward the incoming fleet. In the palace command center, Lyra stared at the large screen that showed the orbit. Red dots marked the enemy ships. Blue dots marked the Royal Guard fleet. The blue dots were fewer and scattered. The guards had trained in peace for too many years. Their formations were weak. Renal whispered, The Empire has not faced a real attack in a long time. Many forgot how fast war moves. Lyra clenched her fists. We will not run. This is our home. A voice from the defense station came through the speaker. Princess, the human ship is moving toward the enemy. It is taking a forward position. It is not waiting for orders. The entire room turned silent. Every noble and officer knew what that meant. The human was the first to step into the fire. Renal smiled slightly. He moves without waiting, just like his people. Ryan's ship approached the edge of the orbit. The enemy ships came into clear view. They were black and sharp like blades cutting through space. They carried no flag. They were raiders from the outer rim. These raiders attacked weak worlds, took what they wanted, and vanished. They were fast and cruel. Inside his ship, Ryan spoke through the intercom. We are not here to protect their pride. We are here to protect lives. Aim for their engines. Disable them before they reach the shield. The crew shouted in unison. Yes, Commander. The first wave of raider ships fired. Bright streaks of plasma crossed space. Ryan's ship rolled to the side and returned fire. The first raider ship exploded into light. Mira focused on the screens. Their formation is loose. They did not expect us to meet them here. They thought the palace would be slow. Ryan nodded. Good. We will not give them time to breathe. Keep the pressure. In the palace, the defense officers stared at the screen as the human ship took the lead. It weaved between enemy lines like a blade through water. One by one, raider ships fell. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched. The same man she had insulted was now standing between her world and destruction. A noble whispered, "The human is fighting alone." Another said, "If he falls, the shield will be next." Renal spoke clearly. "Then we must not let him fall. Send the royal fleet to support him, now." Lyra stood tall. "Order every available ship to join the defense. Tell them to follow the human's lead." The officers moved quickly. Messages flashed through the system. Royal Guard ships turned and raced toward the front. The battle grew louder in space. Plasma beams crossed the black sky. Explosions lit the orbit like falling stars. The human ship moved fast and precise. The Royal Guard ships joined the fight. At first, their formations were clumsy, but when they followed Rian's movements, their line grew stronger. Mira shouted, "The raiders are breaking formation." They did not expect resistance like this. Ryan's voice was calm. "Keep pushing. Cut them off before they reach the shield." An enemy ship tried to circle behind them. Ryan's cruiser flipped and fired a clean shot. The raider ship burst apart. The crew cheered, but Ryan kept his focus. "Do not celebrate yet. They will not give up easily." Back on the ground, people in the city watched the battle on the public screens. At first, they had feared the raiders would crush their defenses. Now they watched as one small human ship led the fight. The crowd began to speak with new respect. A worker in the marketplace said, "He is not from our world, but he is fighting for it." A young child looked up at the screen. "He is not afraid of them." The people started to chant in the streets. The sound reached the palace gates. Inside the palace, the royal officers gave reports. "Princess, the raiders are falling back. They are trying to escape." Lyra clenched her hand. "Do not let them escape. We must end this here. Follow the human's lead and finish the fight." The royal fleet moved in a tight formation behind Ryan. Their guns fired in perfect rhythm. One by one, the raider ships were taken down. Finally, only 2 ships remained. They turned to flee into deep space. Ryan gave a short order. "Target engines. Do not let them carry this attack elsewhere." The last 2 ships exploded in silence. The space around Arthenia grew still again. The alarm in the palace turned from red to blue. The officers let out long breaths. Some smiled. Others stared at the screen in disbelief. Ranal spoke softly to the princess. "He did not need to fight for us." "But he did." Lyra's throat felt tight. She remembered the words she had spoken to him that day. She had called him small. She had mocked his plain uniform. Yet when danger came, he was the first to stand. A message came through the royal channel. It was from Ryan's ship. His face appeared on the screen. His hair was messy and smoke filled the air behind him. But his eyes were calm as always, he said. "The raider fleet is destroyed. No civilians were harmed. Your world is safe for now." Lyra stepped forward and looked at the screen. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Thank you. You saved my people." Ryan shook his head. "I did what anyone should do when danger comes. Now it is up to you to decide what kind of leader you want to be." The screen went dark. Hours passed. The sky returned to peace. But the Empire was not the same. Word of the battle spread across the entire star system. People spoke about the human who had led their defense. In the streets, they called him a hero.
In the palace, the nobles no longer spoke with pride in their voices.
Many of them felt shame. Lyra stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The wind touched her face. Renal stood behind her. She whispered, "He stood for us when I turned my back on him. He did not care about my crown or my throne. He cared about what was right." Renal nodded. "That is why his silence had power. And that is why his actions today will never be forgotten." She looked at the stars. "Tomorrow I will stand before him, and I will bow if I must." Renal placed a hand on his chest. "Then tomorrow will be the day our empire truly begins to change." Inside his ship, Ryan sat with his crew. The lights were dim. The engines hummed softly. The battle was over, but the message it carried was only beginning. Mira handed him a report. "The people of Arthenia are speaking your name. The royal fleet calls you commander. Even the palace has changed its voice." Rian leaned back in his chair. "It is not about me. It is about them seeing the truth. No empire stands forever by pride alone. It stands when it remembers the value of every life." Outside the ship, the stars were quiet. The same stars that had watched him walk away from the princess now watched as he defended her world. Morning light touched the towers of the royal city. The sky of Arthenia was calm again. The people had returned to their work. Traders opened their stalls. Children ran through the streets. Soldiers repaired the defense walls. The battle was over, but the memory of it was still strong in every heart. News about the fight had spread across the entire empire. Stories told how one human ship stood against a raider fleet. People said his courage gave strength to their own ships. Many who had doubted humans now spoke with respect. In the outer colonies, his name was already being sung as a defender of the empire. The world had changed in one night. Inside the palace, the Great Hall was being prepared for a ceremony. Long banners hung from the ceiling. Guards lined the walls in perfect order. Nobles filled the hall with quiet voices. Their proud faces were different now. Many of them carried guilt. Others carried new respect. The attack had shaken them deeply. Princess Lyra stood at the top of the steps. She wore the royal blue robe. The golden crown rested lightly on her head. But inside she felt no pride. She felt a weight she had never known before. The image of Ryan's ship standing alone in front of the raiders was still in her mind. His calm face on the screen was carved into her heart. She had insulted him. She had mocked his people. Yet he had been the first to fight for hers. Renal stepped up beside her. His old face was calm as always. The human ship has entered the landing bay. He is coming, Lyra nodded slowly. I must face him. Not as a princess with a crown, but as someone who owes him everything. Renal spoke softly. A true leader knows when to bow. Today is not about your pride. It is about honor. Lyra took a slow breath. Yes, I understand. In the royal landing bay, the human ship settled onto the platform. Its hull still carried the marks of battle. The paint was burned in places. Some panels were dented. Yet it stood tall and proud like a soldier who would not fall. Soldiers, nobles, and citizens gathered around the platform to see the human who had saved them. The ramp opened slowly. Ryan walked down with Mira and a few crew members. He wore the same plain uniform he had worn on the day he was insulted. It had no gold, no jewels, only the mark of his fleet on the shoulder. But to everyone watching, it looked more noble than any royal robe, the crowd whispered as he passed. Some lowered their heads in respect. Others placed their hands on their hearts. Even the guards straightened their stance. They had seen what this man had done for their world. A royal escort met him at the gate. Commander Ryan, the princess requests your presence in the Great Hall. Ryan nodded. Lead the way. Mira looked at him as they walked. You know this is going to be a big moment. Ryan kept his calm voice. I did not fight for a moment. I fought because it was right. Mira smiled. That is why they respect you. The Great Hall was silent when Ryan entered. The nobles turned to face him. Many had looked down on humans before. Today they saw him differently. Lyra stood at the top of the stairs. Her crown shone in the light, but her heart beat fast inside her chest. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward. The sound of his boots echoed across the hall. He walked with steady steps. No pride, no fear, just calm strength. When he reached the center of the hall, he stopped. Lyra stepped down slowly until she stood in front of him. The distance between them was small, but to her it felt wide and heavy. Her voice was clear, though soft. Ryan of Earth, she said. On the day you came to this world, I treated you with disrespect. I judged your people without knowing their strength. I insulted your honor before my court. The nobles lowered their eyes. The memory of that day still burned in their minds. Lyra continued. When danger came, you did not walk away. You stood alone against the enemy when no one else moved. You saved my world. You gave courage to my people, and you did it not for reward but because it was right. She took a step closer. Her voice grew stronger. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about your people. And today, before all who stand in this hall, I will not speak pride. I will speak respect. She slowly lowered herself to one knee. The golden crown tilted as she bowed her head deeply to him. The entire hall gasped. No Arthenian princess had ever bowed to an outsider. It was a moment none of them would forget. I bow to the strength and honor of humanity, Lyra said. I bow to the man who showed me what courage truly means. The hall remained silent for a long moment. Ryan looked at her not as a princess, but as a person trying to make things right. He had not expected her to bow. He had not asked for it. But in that single action, she showed more strength than in all her royal speeches. He slowly reached out a hand. Stand, princess. I did not fight to make anyone kneel. I fought to protect lives. She looked up and took his hand. He helped her to her feet. The hall broke into sound. Some nobles clapped. Others bowed their heads in respect. The soldiers raised their hands to their chests. The air was filled with a new kind of unity. Rennell stepped forward and spoke loudly so all could hear. Let it be written in the record of this empire. On this day a human commander defended our world, and our princess bowed not in weakness but in honor. Outside the palace, the people of the city had gathered to watch the ceremony on large public screens. When they saw their princess bow, the crowd grew silent. Then slowly the silence turned to cheers. People waved their hands in the air. Children climbed on their parents' shoulders to see better. Traders left their shops. Workers left their tools. The entire city spoke with one voice. Ryan of Earth, they shouted, defender of Arthenia. The sound spread through every street and tower. For the first time, humans were no longer seen as weak. They were seen as equals. They were seen as brothers in the stars. After the ceremony, Lyra met Ryan on the balcony overlooking the shining city. The wind carried the sound of the crowd. The sun shone on the golden towers. She removed her crown and placed it on the railing. She looked at him. You could have walked away. You had no reason to fight for us. Ryan looked at the city. I did walk away that day. I walked away because respect cannot be forced. But when the enemy came, it was not about who insulted who. It was about right and wrong, Lyra nodded. Your silence taught me more than 100 speeches. And your courage saved my people. She extended her hand. I offer not just my thanks. I offer friendship between my world and yours. Ryan took her hand. Then let this be the beginning of something better. In the days that followed, new talks began between Earth and Arthenia. The tone was no longer proud or cold. It was warm and respectful. Human and Arthenian ships trained together. New trade routes opened. The alliance grew stronger with each passing day. Lyra worked hard to change the old ways of the court. She spoke openly about what she had learned from that day. She reminded the nobles that true strength was not in crowns or old power, but in courage and unity. Ryan returned to his ship. He continued his work as a commander, but wherever he went, people recognized his name. Not as a hero who demanded reward, but as a man who stood firm when others froze. Mira once asked him, "Do you ever think about that day in the hall when you just walked away?" Ryan smiled slightly. Yes, walking away was not weakness. It was a message, and when the time came, they understood it. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Lyra stood on the same balcony where they had spoken. She watched the human ships moving in the sky beside her own fleet. The stars above were endless. She knew this was only the beginning. The future would bring new dangers and new trials, but now they would face them together. Rennell joined her. You have changed, Princess, Lyra answered softly. I had to. He showed me a different kind of strength. Rennell looked at the stars. One day history will tell this story. Not just of the battle, but of the moment a princess bowed to a human, and how everything changed after that. Lyra smiled gently, and I will not be ashamed of that moment. I will be proud of it. Far above the planet, Ryan's ship flew silently through space. The stars stretched across the black sky like rivers of light. He stood at the window with Mira beside him. Mira said, "They will remember you for this." Ryan shook his head. No, they will remember the lesson. That pride breaks under pressure, but respect builds something that lasts. She smiled, and maybe they will remember the man who just walked away. He said nothing more. The ship turned toward the stars.